We started off with a fantastic game on paper and how it played out between Port Adelaide and Geelong. And what happened here is almost exactly what I was expecting and kind of what I was hoping for, because here Geelong handles the Port Adelaide Power in a very thrilling game. You had both Jeremy Cameron and you had Tom Hawkins. They were doing everything for this team. They combined for 9 goals, and they looked fantastic up and down the field. And what happened here is that you had the battle of two top four teams. And while Adelaide definitely had their moments in here, they took the lead a couple times in this, one time in the fourth quarter too. What happened was kind of what I thought, is that Geelong, they're legitimate. They're legitimate premiership contenders. Whereas I haven't had faith in Port Adelaide all year long. They haven't won a game against a top 8 team. And here, once again, another big test for them, and yet another test that they fail. So, Geelong, they prove themselves. The Cats look great, and they're really coming out this week strong. Port Adelaide, they're starting to stumble right now while they're still in the top 4. It's probably not for long, just because 2 of those top 4 teams we're on bye weeks this week. And then one of the things I want to ask you, Donnie, is that would you consider Cameron and Hawkins the best forward duo in the league?
Right now it's hard to argue because they're both playing out of their minds right now, and I got to give it credit. Geelong did something that they hadn't done in a while, and that's win after a bye week, and to go over to
Little
a
bulk
tough.
my tip on this one too, huh?
I well, this was one of those you just
Uh
didn't know because you
huh.
also had Geelong bring in so many new players. I mean, Dangerfield comes back, Blitzovs comes back, Duncan comes back. They had so many ins, and sometimes so many ins can actually be a bad thing because it can kind of throw your team off a little bit. So I don't know what it was. I don't know whether it was Scott just kind of let him just play after coming back from the bye or what, or it really I've seen this discussion being said is that maybe a little bit is I think Port Adelaide's midfield, we're finding out Travis Boak and Ollie Wines are great disposal getters, but in all the depth of strength of their midfield is maybe a little bit exaggerated a little bit because this poor team, they got exposed a little bit in the midfield. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
you've got some superstars in Dangerfield and Duncan and Selwood in the midfield for Geelong. So some people could say, well, there's your retort is they played a really good midfield. But in all, this was there should have been an advantage to Port Adelaide in the ruck because Laddams is a much better ruck than Blitzovs and Radagalia thrown together. And that's no shade to Radagalia or Blitzovs. It's
Mm-hmm.
just Adams is a taller, stronger, more known quantity in the ruck battle than Blitzovs and Radagalia. Radagalia is known for his athleticism, more of a forward type of guy. Blitzovs is that athlete that just happens to be tall. So I think that's kind of the argument there. This was really a game that was back and forth. There was tons of goal scoring. I mean, considering both teams had 2 9-goal hauls. You
Mm-hmm.
had Hawkins and Cameron with 9, and Connor Rosie and Charlie Dixon with 9. So this was really a game where the defensive structure of Geelong kind of showed up late in the game, and Geelong just kind of ran over with it. So the questions are starting to come on Port now. Are they flat track bullies? Are they only a team that beat up on the lower teams in the rankings, which will be quite interesting because they play Gold Coast this week.
Mm-hmm.
So many people are kind of chalking that up to a win. And then you've got Sydney coming to town, and Sydney's going to be coming off the bye. So it'll be quite interesting to see these next 2 weeks for Port Adelaide how they respond because you play an up and coming Gold Coast team that I think kind of underperformed this week.
Yeah.
And it should be a win at home.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have Sydney coming to town. So it'd be quite an interesting little week for Port. But all in all, hats off to Geelong. I mean, they kind of have rebounded from some of the stumbles early in the year. They've won their last 5 in a row. They have a big matchup this week, which is probably the marquee game of the entire round coming up this week. So I'm really looking forward to it. But hats off to the Cats on this big win over in Adelaide.